Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. So, for those of you who might be new, I'd like to sometimes pause and go back a little bit, because I think that some people aren't used to hearing us and they maybe just discovered us. And so I'm assuming you've been listening to us for 2 years, because I've been listening to me for, well, much more than 2 years, but in podcast form for 2 years. And sometimes I need to remind myself to go back and tell people things that seem obvious to me. So if you are new to Clarity on Fire, please, you need to start with taking the Passion Profile quiz. That's our jam. That's our foundation. And I will link to this because this is probably one of the better episodes to listen to if you're new and you want to hear more about passion profiles. We did a side chat about 1.5 years ago about the 4 passion profiles, and we debriefed them. It was in December of 2018. I think it was episode number 75.
Let's see, but I feel like you're right.
No, I am right. I know I'm right about that, because I've also referenced this episode in another episode, and you didn't believe me. And that, this has already happened before.
Are we just reliving the whole experience?
I mean, that is kind of what happens, right? Yeah. You just get in a loop.
How boring.
I don't mind it. You don't seem to remember it, so you're fine. I don't mind it. You don't remember it. So that's a great place to start. I can link to that episode, but that's just a good thing to put on your next to listen list. I wish you could curate like a podcast playlist for yourself. Why does Apple not let you do that? You could just be like, go to this episode and then go through 30 in the future. And then
maybe it does.
If that's a thing, can someone let me know?
Someone's probably made that app. Curate your own podcast list.
Probably. So I would start there. And then if you love the idea of passion profiles, you've discovered, hey, I am a side hustler, I am a tribe member, and I am vibing hard with this, but I don't know what to do with it, then you are welcome to take the Passion Profile short course, which is very short, as its name would imply. It's like 5-ish hours of content. You can do it in one day if you want to sit down and just kind of treat it like a day-long workshop. And right now, until June 5th, that course, which is like totally do-it-yourself, is 50% off. That's half off. Instead of $250, it's $125. Because of what's going on right now, we feel like that might be a good thing for some people, is you need a little bit of career direction, but you don't need it to be super expensive. Okay, have this.
Also, in addition to that, because we recognize some people need a little bit more personalized support right now, but also might be trying to figure out, what's going on with my career, and don't have the resources for a full coaching package, we are offering single sessions. Mm-hmm. If you're new, we never do this. This is not a thing that we typically do. No. This is just trying to support you in whatever you are going through right now, because we know this time has shaken up a lot for people. Yeah. And I got to say, I've been reminded how much can happen in an hour-long coaching session in some of these that I've had lately with people who I've never talked to before. But man, we can really get deep into something in that session. So there's a lot of power in gifting yourself a little bit of dedicated time to talk through something that you're struggling with. So
yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but here's the thing. Having been a coach for 8 years, there are very few conversations that are A, an hour long, B, literally all about you. The other person's perspective doesn't really matter. Their life story isn't coming into it. Their opinion's not coming into it. And I find that one of the reasons that coaching is so effective is that it focuses your thoughts and energy. A lot of the time, you are just bouncing around from one thought to another, to another, to another, and you don't even know where to start. You don't even know how to sort or sift through them. And coaching is kind of like a crystal. You hold it up to the light, and it actually takes all of that diffused light and it crystallizes it into one focused little beam. I don't understand how laws of physics and light work and all that. I don't know if that even is physics. Probably not, to be honest. But I like visuals, and that's what works for me. So it really can be helpful and effective in just an hour to clear a lot of the cobwebs from your mind and crystallize your intentions and just get you thinking clearer and moving easier. And that's not to say it solves all your problems in an hour, because we would never try to solve anyone's problems in an hour. That's not humane, to be honest. But we can start there, and that's a great thing to do if you want. And of course, if you then at some point decide, hey, I want to do actual coaching, like more coaching, 6 sessions or 12 sessions or something, then that's great. You can actually apply what you spent on that session toward the rest of coaching. We're happy to do
You'll
that.
end up getting a free session that way.
Or you can bundle the two things together. You can do the short course and a coaching session for even less when you, at checkout, add one or the other to your cart. Again, all until June 5th. And then...
which is 2 weeks from today.
Yeah. And then on June 6th, the short course price will go up. There will be no more bundling. There will be no more single sessions, except for former clients, because that's something that we still do for anyone who has worked with us in the past. So just think about it. Go to the show notes to get links to the short course and single session if you want, or to just check out the short course page and read more about it if you're new and you want to understand what's in it and what we get into and what to expect. That's great. Or you can go to clarityonfire.com/pandemic for more info. Okay, so we are back with only the second ever episode of this feature, which is Burn This, which...
we're Clarity on Fire. We had to have another fire theme rolling through the podcast.
Yeah, I will remind you that it is a play. Then I didn't steal it. It's an homage to a play that I've never seen. But it recently starred Adam Driver, who I've seen a lot of.
That's the only reason you even know about it, is because of Adam Driver.
I just love him. Yeah, no, I wouldn't have known it if I wasn't like an Adam Driver stan, which, I'm proud to be. But I just like the title because it made my intention, like I was trying to figure out what I want to do an episode series about something. And then when I saw that, I was like, that's what it is. I want to get a little bit angry about something and burn it all up and just transmute it into something else. And I don't know, I think burning stuff is very cathartic. I'm not an arsonist.
We get attached to
or
so
a
much
pyromaniac.
Even though we do have fire in our business name. We get attached to beliefs, or we get attached to how things are, and sometimes we forget to question, does it have to be that way?
Yeah.
And that's what this type of episode, these Burn This episodes, are meant to do, is to shine a light on something and say, it does not have to be that way. In fact, it should not be that way.
Let's torch it.
We're going to torch it, and we're going to forge a new path.
Yeah.
And we have a very relevant topic today.
Yeah. Let's talk about why it ain't cool to get sick to work. It's not nice to put your body through hell in order to have a job. And I've seen this manifest. Let's get into some examples. I've seen this manifest in many different ways. Real common way, wishing you could get into like just a little baby car accident on your way to work so that you could maybe just, I don't know, break your ankle just a little and then be on disability for a while and not have to work. Or just sometimes get into a fender bender so you don't have to work that day. Sometimes the aspiration isn't even that high to like break an ankle or something.
I know. I had a client who dreaded her job so much, and she has a peanut allergy, and she was like, I one day almost got a Snickers bar out of the vending machine and just took a little bite so I could go to the hospital. Like, when you're at
you
that
once had
level,
a client daydreaming about breaking her leg in the shower.
I did, yeah. Like, what if I just slept in the shower this morning? I wouldn't have to go to work for maybe days.
So there are a lot of people, we've heard this. So first of all, if this is a thought you've had, like, I don't want to hurt myself. I don't want to like die or anything. But it wouldn't be so bad to like go into anaphylactic shock so that I wouldn't have to go to work today. You do hear how problematic
can
that
we pause
sounds, right?
just for a minute? Like the hospital is a better, more appealing place for you today
Than your job.
Also, that's a problem.
what if, because I really love to draw the comparison between career and relationships, what if you were doing this about a relationship? It makes you feel icky, doesn't it? To think of it that way. Like, I'd rather have an allergic reaction that requires an ambulance than me date this person or than stay in this relationship. That's a problem. And I think you can understand how much of a problem that sounds like.
Yes.
If you feel like you'd rather literally be hurt or be sick than work, that's not healthy. That's not okay. Just want to set the baseline on that. It ain't chill.
Well, and I also wanted to give some of those examples because usually when people are at that point and they confide that in me, they're like, they feel really like something's wrong. Like, I must be the only one thinking these kinds of thoughts.
No.
You're not.
No, there's
Clearly,
a lot of people
we've had a
thinking
lot of those examples pop up. It's just a very clear sign that you have overstayed your welcome here.
Yeah.
The reason why we get a little bit more stuck on this than in the relationship example you gave is
survival.
We need jobs. You don't need to be in a relationship to survive. You do need money.
Yeah.
And so we will talk ourselves into thinking, oh, this is okay. This is not so bad because we need the money.
So let me just be real clear. Oh, God, I love this type of episode because it gives me permission to do what I love to do best.
A little rant.
Yes. I haven't done a Rachel Rants in a while. This is almost like the grown-up version of a Rachel Rants, or the more...
collaborative rant.
The collaborative rant, yeah. So the body doesn't lie. And I think this is a huge problem because a lot of the time when you feel like I want to break my leg in the shower, I want to eat a peanut, I just want to have a baby car crash. I'm sure there's more examples than that you guys can think of that you may have experienced shamefully. It's not actually shameful. It's normal. When you're having these thoughts, you think, and I've heard people say it, there must be something wrong with me for feeling like this. They feel ashamed that they feel like that. And that is your first mistake right there, is to take that evidence, because truly all that is, those thoughts or those feelings, because also let's remember, it's not just thoughts that are symptoms of misalignment, because that's what this is. This is a profound misalignment between you and the work that you're doing or the situation that you're in. And it's manifesting as really negative or uncomfortable thoughts. But that can also manifest not in thoughts, but in feelings in your body. So tightness in your chest, malaise, just complete wanting to break down and sob instead of work. I mean, just the emotional, physical experience in your body is just as valid as clear thoughts about that you can articulate. Sometimes you cannot articulate it, but it doesn't matter whether you're having thoughts or whether you're having feelings or sensations in your body. Your body doesn't lie. The brain and the body, they're not telling you this because there's something wrong with you. They're telling you this because there's something wrong with the situation that you're in. And instead of thinking there's something wrong with you, because what that does is kind of makes it impossible for you to do anything about it, because all you're focusing on is, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I having these thoughts? I've got to change my thoughts. I just need to suck it up. I just need to be more positive. What you don't do is then focus the attention on what really is the problem, which is the deep incompatibility or wrongness between you and the situation.
Yeah, we misdiagnose the problem.
Yes.
Thinking it's ourselves when it's the situation.
Yes.
It's
and
the alignment of the situation.
Then we accuse our body of being a liar when the body is just actually giving you nothing but information. It's just saying, I am reacting naturally based on something that is happening. And what we need to do is first give our bodies the benefit of the doubt. Like, what I am experiencing must be valid, and there must be a good reason that I'm thinking these thoughts and feeling this way. So first, we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt that these are not bad thoughts. They are just symptomatic of something deeper that is that's clearly an issue, and we need to get to the root of it.
Yes. Another example along those lines is, and this is a very current one, I have a client right now who's being asked to go back into a medical facility. That is not a coronavirus facility, but it's a medical facility that has been doing some of their research and some of their work remotely, and they're trying to bring people back in to the office now. Really a couple of weeks ago, as of when this comes out. And she's very uncomfortable with that.
I've had multiple clients in the same situation.
She feels like I have proven that I can do a lot of this work remotely. And I do not feel safe going into my workplace yet. And I feel pressured to go into it because other people are being a little bit more laissez-faire about this. And they're trying to make sure we keep making money. And she feels very much like her own safety is not being respected. And that they have much more interest in continuing to make money than in protecting her. And she has a small child. Yeah. And so that's very scary to her. I know, we don't know how this affects anyone, but she has like a really little one at home. You should not feel pressure to put you and your family into physical harm's way.
For a job.
For your job.
No. I've had multiple clients in the same situation. I had one who had to get a doctor's note so that they wouldn't pressure her to go back to work, because she has like an autoimmune condition and she doesn't feel safe. And she said, I feel so much more at ease with this doctor's note because I don't think they would respect my decision unless I had that. There's going to be pressure. There's going to be a ton of peer pressure in the next few weeks. For this is going to be a normal thing. And I would hope that people would respect your decision, but a lot of people aren't going to respect your decision. And so here's the thing. People are going to be like, yeah, I shouldn't. Like, these are normal thoughts. I should give myself the benefit of the doubt. I should trust myself. I should honor the fact that I feel like this and that this must mean that there's something off or there's something not right about this situation, whether it's just how I feel about a job at any old time or whether it's how I feel about going back to a job in Corona time. Great, but I still need to make money. So, okay, Kristen and Rachel, like this is all great, but this isn't going to help me pay the bills. So then what?
Well, part of this is you might need to ask for what you need. You're not saying, I'm not willing to work. Right. Clarify, I'm willing to work and I need to set some boundaries for myself based on my own safety and based on my own situation. Everyone has their own. I have a client right now who is living with her 80-year-old grandmother. And she does not want to go back to work and potentially bring anything home to her already, vulnerable. Like, you need to be able to speak up for yourself, for the people in your life, and set boundaries. That does not necessarily have to be, it's this or the highway. It doesn't have to be
all or nothing.
Abrasive. You don't have to leave or threaten to leave even. But you do need to advocate for what you know. Because again, your body will tell you if it's very uncomfortable with going into a place. And if you're getting that message, you can listen to that. This is even before Corona time. I had a client who worked in a lab and she was working with hazardous viruses, who was studying hazardous viruses. And she felt like she had certain amount of protective equipment and didn't feel like it was sufficient. And nobody seemed to be that interested in her experience. So she had to go and say, if you would like me to keep working with this hazardous virus, I'm going to need this next level of protection because it makes me very uncomfortable. You might need to do that now. Say, what is the level of protection that I need to be able to go into this space? Or how much more time do I need to be able to stay at home? And advocate for that. That is an okay thing to do. You're advocating for your physical health and for the health of those who you are closest to. You have every right to do that.
Yes, 100%. And if you get a really bad reaction, I think that's telling of the kind of people you do and don't want to work with, right? If the reaction to that is, oh my God, you're being so sensitive, you're over the top, then I would say I would deeply question whether this is going to be a long-term fit for me, But in this day and age, I really don't think anyone can or should force someone to go back to work, especially when we've all been working remotely rather successfully for a couple months. It's not like most of us can't keep doing that. So it's BS that a lot of these, in all of the situations I've seen, it wasn't like they were doing something that was literally hands-on. They had to be physically there. It was completely unnecessary for them to be physically there, at least in the clients I've worked with. But I also want to address, okay, so pre-corona times or post-corona times, when you're feeling like, I don't want to go into work, and it's not because I don't feel safe, it's just because I don't want to fucking go.
Well, there can be emotional strain and harm that you can cause yourself beyond physical. So it's not always, I'm afraid I'm going to go into work and get a virus. Sometimes it's, I keep going into work and it's
if I keep
stressing
doing
me
this
out to the point that my physical and mental and emotional health are compromised. I had a client many years ago who was an investment banker in New York City.
Yeah.
And her work hours
the worst
were
of the worst.
So insane. And the expectations for how much productivity she could put in any given week were so extreme that she was having regular panic attacks.
They were inhuman.
Couldn't breathe and was on anti-anxiety medication just to get through the day. If your job is requiring, she was not an anxious person by nature. She didn't need to be on any kind of medication. The reason she needed to was to be able to tolerate her job. If you are in that situation, you do not need to put yourself through that for a paycheck. That is not worth your... Can we please burn that? Like, literally having panic attacks and having to be medicated because of your work.
Yeah, no.
Nothing's worth that.
Nothing's worth that. And you would think that she had no out. And she totally changed the way she showed up before she did eventually quit.
Yep.
But before she quit, she really changed some stuff. She really got into like an IDGAF
She put up so many boundaries and did not care and no one fired her. Nobody fired her. She's still left on her own terms.
I mean, if someone who's working on Wall Street can just basically be like, you know what, I'm just going to work normal hours and I don't give a crap what anyone thinks and didn't get fired, you can too.
Yes.
I mean, really.
Yes, because that's the worst of the worst.
So I'm not saying that if you're experiencing this, your course of action is to quit right away. Because I will say this. Sometimes your reaction to not wanting to go to work is your responsibility. It's not just a matter of a lack of compatibility. That's often going on. Like what you're doing is just so unfulfilling or it's so draining or it's toxic. That's valid. And often the experience we're having is either the majority of it, or at least being very heavily influenced by our lack of boundaries or our kind of feelings about it. So if you're the kind of person who's just super depressive or anxious by nature and you're not honoring any of your boundaries and you're overworking, then and having been this, I am the person I'm just describing, you will hate working, not necessarily because the work itself is the problem, but because you are completely overshooting every one of your boundaries and you're not honoring your sensitivity or your needs at all. So first, you might need to start meeting some of your own needs, which does include changing maybe the hours that you work or advocating for what you need when that may have scared you, letting go of some of those people-pleasing tendencies if that's maybe keeping you feeling like I have to keep performing, I have to keep showing up, I have to do everything perfectly. That pressure will totally eat away at you over time.
Yes. Keep in mind, Rachel just mentioned that my client I just mentioned, who is the investment banker, she didn't just quit. She changed her entire attitude. She stopped having panic attacks while she was still at the job and then quit. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes you need to change your mindset and then you still need to quit. Sometimes you can change your mindset and change your boundaries and change the way you show up and stop people pleasing so much. And you recognize, oh, I actually like this job. I was just burnt out because I'd pushed myself too far.
Yeah. You
don't know exactly where that's going to go next. But that first step is, this is not healthy.
Right.
I need to say no to some things. I need to be very clear about what I will and will not do. And I need to approach this differently for my own mental and emotional health's sake, first and foremost.
Yes. So to summarize, your course of action is acknowledge that my feelings and thoughts and what my body is experiencing is valid. I'm going to start with the assumption that what I feel and think is valid. And then based on that, what would I do next? Okay, if it's valid that I'm having this thought about wanting to eat a peanut, then what does that mean? That means there's clearly something unhealthy going on here. Okay, what's the crux of the lack of health? Is it the pressure I'm feeling? What is it that's the worst part of this? And then, okay, how can I maybe alleviate some of that? If I were to challenge myself to have to get creative about how I might approach this differently, how would I? What's my responsibility here? And what might just be a lack of compatibility? I understand that these are hard questions to answer on your own. I'm giving you them because I think you need them. I don't expect you to work through them on your own. Obviously, that's a huge part of what Kristen and I do. That is a thing that you can work out with someone like a coach.
That is also a topic you could bring to a single session.
Sure, if you wanted to do that.
Hey, I need to set some boundaries, and I know that I do, and I don't know what they are, and I'm a little scared. Can we talk through that? Yeah, we can talk through that.
Yeah.
That's hard to do on your own.
So honor the fact that you are what you're experiencing is a symptom of a deeper problem, and do not berate the symptom. Go be more interested in figuring out what the deeper problem is than berating the symptom. And if you're having specific to Corona times issues, know that in this day and age, I do not think it is right or fair or valid for anyone to expect you to work if you don't feel comfortable doing it, especially if you're in a job that does not require you to be in person. And you are allowed to push back on that. And I don't want you to be afraid reasonably. I understand there's a reasonable level of fear, but I don't want you to be afraid that you're going to get fired for this. Because quite honestly, I mean, don't blame me if it happens. I don't think it's going to happen. Quite honestly, I think it's a very bad look for an employer to fire you because you were uncomfortable coming in during a pandemic. I don't think it's going to bounce back and reflect much worse on them and become a much bigger lawsuit potentially for them than it is for you. I think what I'm saying is you hold the cards, you hold more power than they do. And often when we feel at the effect of something, it's because we believe we have no power. And I think a lot of us, those of our clients who've shared this, are feeling fearful, and it's because they're putting all of the power into their employer's hands, and they don't realize that they still retain a lot of power and that they have the ability to use that power.
But you have to speak up.
But you have to be willing to use it. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to push back. You have to set some boundaries. You have to be willing to make people angry, maybe, and uncomfortable. But nothing is worth you feeling sick or, your body degenerating and falling apart because you are pushing yourself too hard, or you are dishonoring your boundaries, or you are trying to please other people. That is, your health and wellness is not worth any of that.
No, we are burning all of those old beliefs. That is not the point of your work. We are not working in immigrant factories anymore, most of us. We do not need to be putting ourselves inhaling.
Our Irish ancestors who came here in the late 1800s working 14-hour days at 10 years old in a factory. We're not those people anymore, you and I. And, we've evolved.
That wasn't okay then. It's definitely not okay now.
Definitely was never okay, but it's definitely not how you should be feeling like working now.
No.
So this is actually a great, I know this is not going to be our next episode. Our next episode will be on Tuesday. It'll be a Magic 8 Ball episode. But next Friday, 5th Friday in the month, we're doing a bonus book club episode on Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. This is such a great lead into that because Glennon, in the book, she talks about burning the memos or ripping up or destroying, however she phrases it, the memos that you received about what it means to be, and, in her book in particular, she was talking about her grappling with what it means to be a good mother. And her definition of being a good mother was being a martyr. And I think that there is something here relevant to that our memo that we received, that being a good employee means sacrificing your health or wellness or putting yourself last or not prioritizing your needs and prioritizing the needs of everyone else before yourself. And there's, that's honestly a lot of what our culture believes it means to be a good mother too, right? Is to just slowly fade away until you're nothing. That is definitely not what being a good mother means. And it's not what being a good employee means either.
No.
It's just like being pleasing and acceptable and not pushing back and just getting sick and wanting to fall apart. That is not normal. That is not healthy and it's not necessary. And we got to burn that memo.
Yeah. Glennon is such a powerful role model of burning away everything that does not belong, even if it's painful, even if it's scary, but doing it because there's always something better on the other side. There's always something more authentic on the other side. So
if you haven't read that book yet, start it and we'll talk about it. Go listen to it on Audible or read it. You'll fly through it. It's so good. Kristen hasn't flown through it, but
I've had a lot going on.
But she doesn't really fly through anything. That's not her style. But I did, and I loved it. And pretty much everyone I know has read it or is reading it. And you've probably seen a lot of celebrities even talking about
She's
it.
She's been on a lot of book tours lately.
Podcasts.
Virtual book tours.
I can't get enough of this book and what's in it. And I really can't wait to talk more about
Plus,
it.
we haven't had a book club in a little while, so it's time.
It's been ages. It's been whole eons since we've had one.
I always wanted to head up a book club, so I'm so glad that we found a way to do that in my life.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Without having to meet people in person.
The Introverts Book Club.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you on Tuesday for a new Magic 8 Ball, and then we'll be back on Friday for Glennon Doyle's Untamed.
See you then.